Hello everyone and welcome to Monday of the second week of February. And I'm coming to you at the end of the day, so let me just get in and let you know what we ended up doing today by looking at this agenda right behind me. So we started our morning by finishing up our ketchup and pickles, and then we went into reading the paired selection of wonders and doing our compare and contrast of the paired selection to the main selection. I did end up having the students write some questions on a sheet of paper. I'll give you a glimpse of how that paper looked because I decided they needed to answer. They were just too quiet this morning. I needed them to start using their brains and exercising their thinking. So I did give them some questions that they didn't finish. So tomorrow we're going to piggyback on that. And because they were answering those questions, we didn't have time for writing. But I was going to use it for the end of the day. But what happened was that after math, the kids went to PE. And after PE, I had to go ahead and address some things that happened during PE. So that took up our time, but that was important to do. So I was going to use our writing time in the afternoon, take a little bit of social studies to do it, but we didn't do it. So tomorrow, I really need to start with this. Then in science, we were going over how we measure matter and the science tools that we use for that. In math, we classify quadrilaterals. We're halfway through with chapter 10. Tomorrow, they will take their May chapter checkpoint. And again, we didn't have time for social studies because we were dealing with the class meeting. And then I was kind of tired and the kids were tired and they needed a mindful moment kind of thing. So I ended up having them watch the Disney movie First Kid because since they're doing the White House project and they have to write about whether they want to be the first kid or not, I have them watch that movie so they can get a different perspective. So little by little, I'll just have them watch a little bit each day this week. And then ultimately next week, they turn in their White House projects. If you want to know a little bit more about that White House project, you can check out my previous vlog. And even though it's so long, I did put a lot of timestamps so that you can go to specific things that I do address in the video. I think I might start doing that with the videos that I do post from now on if I have time because it does take time. All right, so let me go ahead and show you those questions that we worked on today in reading. All right, so we're currently on Wonders Unit 3, Week 5, and this is our paired selection. And we needed to compare this to our main selection, which is a new kind of corn, which is a time for kids. And this is an argumentative or persuasive article. So basically, it gives you a little background of what BT corn is, which is genetically modified corn. And then it gives you the farmer's perspective and a consumer's concern or their perspective on the topic. So then we read about this, which is a step-by-step guide on how you can grow your own giant pumpkin. So I needed the students to try to think about how is this related to the previous article, how are they alike, how are they different, and then talk about what the author claims in here. So basically, I gave them a sheet of paper, have them do the heading. We put the title of the paired selection and the Wonders unit we're on. And the first question was, what are the similarities between the pick of the patch and a new kind of corn? And they needed to use evidence. These are my answers. I answered them as they were working on theirs. Again, they need more time to finish, but I finished mine. And then the second question was, what are the differences between the two? And the third question was, describe the reasons the author provides to support the idea that growing a giant pumpkin takes knowledge and skill. Use at least 2 details from the text in your response. And then on the back, I continued my response for that one. But the last question was, explain the text structure of the text and provide evidence. So as you can see, this particular text structure is sequencing. There is a process kind of thing. So they needed to talk about that and let us know why it was that. As compared to this text structure, which is more compare and contrast. So yeah, that is what we were working on in reading this morning. Another thing we did during reading was to go over this very short 2-minute, 13-second video from NBC Learn, which connects to our current unit about GMOs, which is genetically modified organisms. So this one is all about General Mills is going to stop using GMOs in Cheerios. This was from a few years ago, but it was a really good news story that really tied well with what we are doing today in reading. And the students really liked making the connection. So this was really, really great to do. In science, we read a little bit about how we measure matter in our books, and we then went ahead and did a PowerPoint that our district provides us that went over the different tools that we use to measure mass, volume, length, etc. So after that, we went ahead and did some doodle notes. Again, these come from science and math doodles on TPT, and I'll link her down below so you can check out all her resources. This is the science doodle that we were working on. Right now it's blank, but she provides the color version with all the blanks filled out. And I actually have the black and white version so I can show you. So this is the black and white version, but of course if I did print it in my color printer, it will all be in color. So that is basically going over some of the scientific tools that we use in order to measure matter. So then from here, the students are just going to go ahead and take their quiz for that lesson. And then what we're going to do is go on to how matter changes. So looking at physical and chemical changes. And that'll wrap up our matter chapter, which we should wrap up by the end of this week. And then start our energy and motion chapter. So I'm very excited to be catching up on that. As for reading, we're all caught up. We're exactly where we are. For math, we're exactly where we are. Even though we're supposed to finish chapter 10 tomorrow, I'm going to finish it on Thursday, which is 2 days later than usual. But we are starting chapter 11, which is where we're supposed to be later this week. We're starting that on Friday, and we have until the end of the month on the 26th to finish that chapter, which will be plenty of time since there's only 7 lessons in that chapter, and it's all about angles and counterclockwise and clockwise and all that jazz. All right, so that is basically all that we ended up doing today. So let's go ahead and move us on to Tuesday. Hello everyone and welcome to Tuesday. So I am feeling a little bit under the weather. I believe I'm getting a cold again. I've been sniffling and sneezing all day. I did take some medicine right at the end of the day because I remembered I had some, and I'm feeling a little bit better, but not 100%. And that is not great. But let me go ahead and tell you what we ended up doing today in the classroom. So today we started our day with the chapter 10 checkpoint, and we did not get to do line symmetry because I needed to go over the checkpoint because I noticed the students were making some errors that I wanted to make sure that they knew about so that they wouldn't make them again, especially when we take the chapter 10 test later this week. Then we had a little block of some free time, and free time for the students. Well, they love music. And then social studies, we were working with the branches of government. So let me go ahead and show you how that looks in a moment. Wonders, I decided to postpone the test because it felt like it wasn't a good day for it. So we're doing it tomorrow. They need to finish their questions. We were going to do this at the end of the day, but we were working with our measure matter quiz. And then we ended up having to move this over for tomorrow as well. So let me go ahead and show you how the branches of government foldable turned out. Here it is. And it is mostly finished. The only thing that we need to do is just go over it with a flare pen and color the front. But I did guide students into drawing each of these buildings to represent each of the branches of government. So we start with the legislative branch. So Capitol Hill represents that. And then inside, we went ahead and on the top, we are describing what that branch does. And on the bottom, we're describing who belongs to that branch. So legislative makes the laws or writes the laws. And it's made up of the Senate, 2 senators per state, 6-year term, and the House of Representatives based on the state population, 2-year term. And then we have the executive branch, which is the White House, and that is the president. So the executive branch enforces or executes the laws. That's the commander-in-chief, and all these bits of information for the president. And then we have the judicial branch, which is the Supreme Court. That's where the judges are. So interprets the laws made by Congress. There are 9 judges appointed by the president, but the Senate has to agree, and their term is a life term until they die or retire. So that is our little foldable for the branches of government. And I can't wait to see how the students finish it up once they go over it with a flare pen and jazz it up with some color. So that was pretty much our Tuesday, and now I'm just gonna gather my things and go because I need to rest, and now my ear is ringing because of the congestion. Yeah, I need to go lay down and rest and get better. See you tomorrow, Wednesday. Hello and welcome to Wednesday. All right, so I'm just gonna jump right in and let you know what we ended up doing today since I'm coming to you at the end of the day. So let's go ahead and head on over to the agenda on the board. All right, so we started this morning with reading and the students were working with the pick of the patch questions that they needed to finish, comparing the paired selection to the main selection. And we moved the test again over to tomorrow. And we actually spend a lot of time in the afternoon after lunch on informative essay writing. And the reason we moved it also was because the counselor came in and talked to the students. Plus, I wanted to give the students enough time to make sure they do a good job on those questions. So they did have Spanish. After lunch, like I said, we worked a good time on informative essay writing. We did line symmetry in math, and we moved shape patterns for tomorrow, as well as all the science for tomorrow as well. Since it's Wednesday, it's a short day. So we didn't get through everything on our agenda, but I did cover the bulk of what I wanted to cover today, which was making sure they understood how to answer these questions and digging more into informative essay writing. So I want to show you how I projected the questions for them along with an example of a completed assignment and how we tackled informative essays today. So on a PowerPoint presentation, I went ahead and I projected the questions because I had at least one student that hadn't done this assignment. So I projected the questions for the pick of the patch, which was the paired selection for Wonders Unit 3, Week 5. And these were the 4 questions that I gave the students. They had to find the similarities between the main selection and that paired selection, the differences. And then these 2 questions came from the district. They needed to describe the reason the author provides to support the idea that growing a giant pumpkin takes up knowledge and skill, and then they needed to explain the text structure. Now, after giving students plenty of time to complete the work, I wanted to show them an example of a completed assignment. So on PowerPoint, I replicated what looks like a sheet of lined paper, and I made sure I included my heading, just like I told them to include their heading. And then these are the questions and my answers to the questions so that they know how to organize their sheet. And this would be the back of that one sheet. And we can go over each question and how to answer it using the appropriate text evidence. So I did spend time going over this, and I'm really happy with how this turned out. And I hope that it provided some guidance to the students. Now, I didn't leave this up, obviously, because I don't want them to copy my answers, but at least show them how I wanted them to structure their papers. In writing, we have been working on this informative prompt for the same unit, and is where they have to explain an example of an advancement in science and how it can be beneficial. I already went over this prior to this day. I don't know if it was this week's vlog or last week's vlog. I'm thinking it was last week's. And I gave them some line sheet of paper to go ahead and write their essay. But I gave them the line sheets of paper today. I initially started by first giving them the prompt and then giving them this yellow sheet, which is a planning sheet. And together we worked on creating this table so that we can gather our evidence to best address the prompt. So we found what the example of the advancement in science was in each source, what the benefits of that was, and an elaboration. Today, we went ahead and flipped the paper over and we talked about, well, what is the advancement in science that we're going to talk about in our essay? And that's genetically modified foods and how they're beneficial. So then we started talking about, well, what should our first paragraph talk about? And we decided to go over what it is, what genetically modified foods is. We went over a little bit of details as to what it is, examples of it, using some of the examples included in the passages, and the benefits of it. So this was one that was talked about in both passages as a big benefit to genetically modified foods. So that's the one that they're going to focus on in their essay. So tomorrow they'll go ahead and start working on their introduction, their body paragraphs, and their conclusion. So that is what we did and how I had them kind of work on this paper, but I took it a step further today. And I did that by first going over the actual rubric of how their essays are scored. So their essays are scored in 3 domains: purpose, focus, and organization is the first domain, or PFO, followed by evidence and elaboration, or EE, and finally conventions, which is C for short. So I only show them what a 4 scoring paper would look like under PFO. And these are the different criteria. This comes from the state. I just condensed it into one table. I'll show you how that table looks in a moment completely. Right now I'm zoomed in so I can just focus on the 4. And this is evidence and elaboration. the EE and what a 4 will look like, what the criteria for getting a 4 would be under EE. And then for conventions, the highest score for conventions is a 2. So what does a 2 look like under conventions? And we looked at that, and that would be proficient, a 2. So in DOK, depth of knowledge, I told the students conventions will be DOK 1, and then purpose, focus, and organization is DOK 2, and then evidence and elaboration will be DOK 3 because it requires a little bit more thinking and synthesizing of the knowledge of what they read and connecting it to the essay that they are writing. So incomplete, this is what this page looks like. Let me just put it fit to, there we go. So this is the informative essay 1, and it has what the proficient papers are, what the non-proficient papers will have. But I really didn't want to focus on the non-proficient papers, obviously. I wanted to just focus on the proficiency. But then I also took it a step further because I showed them an actual example of what a 442 paper on a different topic will look like. This is actually written by a 4th grader. So I showed them this paper, which is a 442. And at the end, it has a commentary on why it received that score. And I also read another paper to the same topic from another student that got a 442, which that would be the highest score for that particular writing. And these examples of the student writing do come from the FSA website. I'll leave a link down below in case you're interested. They have it for different grade levels. So that's something that if you're a teacher in Florida, you should definitely look into if you do teach writing. So that's pretty much what we ended up doing today, Wednesday. Tomorrow morning, we're going to continue with our symmetry practice because we did end the day with symmetry, and also go into shape patterns so that we can wrap up chapter 10 and call it a day. The students can take their test, if not tomorrow, Friday, and we can wrap up chapter 10 and dive right into chapter 11, which is the chapter that we need to focus for the rest of the month of February. So I'm really feeling well because after chapter 11, we have 2 more chapters left in Go Math, and then it's an ongoing spiral review of everything they have learned from chapters 1 to chapter 13. So I'm really happy that we have caught up in reading and in math pretty much. Almost caught up in math, but we'll be definitely where we need to be by next week. So I'm very excited about that. So, and we'll also catch up on our science that we didn't get to do today tomorrow, so we can wrap up our matter topic and then start a new topic on energy and motion, which is going to be very exciting. All right, so that's all I have to share with you for today, Wednesday. And now we're going to go ahead and move on to Thursday. But first, I have to show you my shirt. So today I'm wearing a shirt from Tea Turtle. I love Tea Turtle. A lot of their shirts are super cute. And this one says, I'm a nerd. And it has a little bunny reading a book. Totally me. A panda playing a video game. That's me too. And a kitty cat working on a computer. Me too. And at the bottom it says, get over it. I'm sorry. I love this shirt so much. I'm sorry. Geeky me. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to Thursday. Hello everyone and welcome to Thursday or Friday Eve, and happy Valentine's Day, because that's right, today, the day before Valentine's Day, is Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day to all my friends out there. Have a great day. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about what we ended up doing today. We started the day by doing some symmetry mathematics, and we had so much fun doing that, which I'm gonna show you some clips of what we were doing. That basically we didn't have time for our shape patterns. And before we started Symmetry, however, we had these little hearts that our counselors gave us because they're going to do a kindness tree. So I gave an example of what the students can do in their little hearts, which were cut out of paper, red and pink paper. Basically, they had to write an act of kindness that they had done recently. So I went ahead and I did this example and showed them different ways that they could decorate their hearts. But once we were done with that, we went into our Symmetry activity, and let me show you some clips of that. So basically, I gave the students different color construction paper. I gave them a 9x12 piece of red construction paper that we used the Symmetry skill to fold the paper and then draw half of a heart to then cut out so that we can unfold it and have a full big heart. And then the other pieces of paper they can fold in half, and I guided the students to go ahead and cut out maybe another heart, maybe a butterfly, and a star. So we were practicing finding symmetry by actually cutting out symmetrical shapes and opening them up once we cut them out to see if we had half of the other side. It was a lot of fun, and the students were able to create a fun little Valentine's activity that they can take home to their parents or whoever they wanted to write it to. Let me show you my completed example. Here it is. All these little shapes were made with Symmetry. The big heart, as you can see, I don't know, you can't really tell by the video, but there's a fold line down the middle. The white heart was also made with Symmetry, the middle red heart, these little pink hearts, and the stars, and of course my butterfly. And this is the one that I'm going to give to my mom. I'm going to give it to her today. And these are all the things that I love about her, and that's what I included in there. And I told the students they could do something similar like that, or a message, or something inspirational to get to someone. Before I move on to the rest of our agenda, another thing that I asked the students to bring today was yesterday I had an idea to create like a class playlist of their songs. So I said, you know what, if you were to choose a theme song for your life at this moment in time, what would your theme song be? And I gave them an example. My theme song currently, it could be many, but right now what comes to mind is Fight Song. So that would be my theme song. So I asked them to come today with the title of their song and an artist, and I created a class list of all their names with all the song titles and the artists so that I can use it to create a class playlist that I can play from time to time in the classroom. I did have one student absent today, so when she comes back, she'll let me know. But this is the list that I was able to put together, and I typed it up in Word. So I titled it, What's Your Theme Song? And I put all the students' names and their songs, and there are some really great songs on this list. And I have a space for my student that wasn't here today, so I really love how this came out. All right, now back to our agenda. In science, we were wrapping up topic 3 by going over the changes in matter. We were able to not only read from our books, but we also watched a Discovery Ed video that dealt with both physical and chemical changes and reactions. So that was really cool. In Wonders, the students had an hour to complete their Wonders assessment. We spent a big time with writing yesterday, so I wasn't bad about not having enough time for this. And then we went over and finished the day with a boat and a bus tour part 1. There's 2 parts to that chapter. So let me show you that right now. First of all, I love this chapter because it has this interactive presentation that I show with the students, but this one, because we are doing like a virtual field trip of different places in Florida, we actually have a ranger that is accompanying us, and he shares with us the information.
Hello, I'm Mr. Garcia. You can probably tell from my uniform that I'm a park ranger.
So he continues to read the first section of this chapter, and the students just follow along. But I love this presentation. It comes from our curriculum for social studies, which is by TCI, and it introduces all these different things, and you can set up your room like this as a tour, and all the vocabulary previews and pictures related to the places that we're gonna visit in our virtual tour. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, that's what we were doing today. And to go along with this section, I created this little foldable, which basically I just wrote the questions for each section. I included a boat, a bus, and they had to write on the boat and the bus the places we were going to visit by boat. So 2 different places that this section talks about, and the places that we were going to visit by bus, which is also mentioned in this section right here. So now we only had time for 5.1, but tomorrow we're going to go ahead and go to 5.2, which is our first stop is Everglades National Park. And over here we have some questions that deal with the Everglades. And then we go to Little Havana in Miami. And then after that, we're going to visit the Kennedy Space Center. And then the end of part 1 is St. Augustine. For part 2, I have another one of these that says part 2, which continues. So this is all about Little Havana. Then it goes into Kennedy Space Center and St. Augustine. And after that, we're going to go to Fort Mose. And then a Spanish mission in Tallahassee. A Citrus Grove in Central Florida, and Walt Disney World is our last place for our tour. So very excited to see how much the students learn from this chapter. So yeah, that in a gist is what we ended up doing today, Thursday. And now let's go ahead and move us on to Friday. Hello everyone and welcome to Friday. Happy Valentine's Day. So I'm coming to you at the end of the day and I want to show you the agenda so that you can see all the things we ended up doing today. First and foremost, we started by going over shape patterns, and then the students took their chapter 10 test in mathematics on two-dimensional figures. And then they had PE, lunch. For social studies, we continued what we were working on yesterday, which is a bus and a boat tour, part 1. And we have social studies split up on Fridays, but we ended up doing the whole entire section. They had Spanish, and in writing, or ELA, we were continuing to work on an informative essay, writing the introduction, which I'll show you my examples. And we ran out of time, so we're going to continue the body and the conclusion next week. And we ended the day with some recess. Now today for Valentine's Day, I did make the students a little gift that I made myself. I basically made these little hearts on PowerPoint and says, "You are the right, W-R-I-T-E, student for me." And it's signed Love Miss Sanchez. And then I just used an X-Acto knife and I carved over these little lines above and below that message. And I just fed a new Ticonderoga colorful pencil. It's a regular pencil, it's just different colors for each student. And they absolutely loved that little treat. And at the end of the day, I ended up giving them a goodie bag with a couple of marshmallow hearts from Jet Puff Marshmallows and a little Lifesaver Valentine's treat from me. And the students wanted to watch Frozen during recess, so we started watching Frozen too. And that is how we ended the day. A couple of the students did bring little treats to pass out to all of their classmates. And one of the students also brought cupcakes, mini cupcakes for everyone. So they ended up having that as their treat. And that is how we ended our week. So that's it. That in a gist is what we did. Let me show you quickly the writing that we ended up doing. All right, so here is our writing packet. And this is what I was modeling for the students, how we can write an introduction to our essay. And I like to use a little checklist on the side. So O stands for opener, which is a general statement about the topic. T is for topic sentence, which is the last sentence of the introduction. And next week, we're going to move on to our body, which we use our TREE acronym. Now, I gave the students 5 minutes to write their introductions. And during that time, I wrote 2 additional introductions so that they can see that there are different ways to write the same information. So here's another introduction that I show them on an index card separate from that. And here is another introduction example so that they can see the different ways that we can write an introduction to our essays. I was also showered by all these nice, beautiful gifts from my students, and I'm so grateful and thankful for them. It's a nice little thing, and I love getting the little messages from them of appreciation, so I feel really loved. All right, so now it's time for my family and I to enjoy our nice 3-day weekend. And I hope that you enjoyed coming along with us in our classroom this week. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought or any questions you may have. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell for notifications so you don't miss any future videos. I hope you have a beautiful, magical day. And don't forget to smile. Hello, dreamers, wishers, and magical thinkers. Thank you so much for making it to the very end of this video and for showing your support. If you'd like to subscribe, you can do so by clicking on my picture down here. You can also check out my latest videos here and here. Don't forget to believe in the magic that's inside you because you are capable of great things. See you next time.